At the time, a bitter war was going on between Allied U.S. troops against the North Koreans and Chinese. It had already been going on for 3 years. It was the first long-awaited and long-feared battle between the West and communism. Could the Korean War have anything to do with Frank's personal problems? He still has an office here in Fort Detrick, in the U.S. Army Center for Biological Weapons. At the same time, he is working for the CIA. Among the tasks of the Dirty Tricks Department in Building 1412 are brainwashing, drugs, and torture, as well as murder by means of poisons and bacteria. On July 17, 1953, Olson celebrates his 43rd birthday with friends. A few days later, he leaves for the last trip he will ever take. He took his movie camera. First stop, London. First objects filmed, Big Ben and a parade on the Mall. Then on to Paris. Near the Eiffel Tower, his 2 CIA colleagues sit in a sidewalk cafe and watch pretty French girls go by. On the left is John McNulty. Paris, London, Stockholm. Frank will later write on the packaging. His son Eric is seeing his father's last film for the first time in his memory. Then, suddenly, a picture of the ruins of the Reichstag and Brandenburg Gate. The Soviet memorial for the victims of the Second World War. So Frank Olson was also in Berlin early in August 1953. In Zehlendorf, he photographs the headquarters of the American Army. Is Frank Olson on a secret Artichoke mission? Several top-level communist agents were being interrogated in Berlin at the time. It was a time of intense political and military tension in the divided city, just weeks after the civilian uprising in the Soviet sector. At the Army headquarters in Berlin, Olson apparently witnessed brutal interrogation methods.
When he came back from Germany the last time, he sounded different. When he talked to me, he said, I can probably tell you things that I can't tell other people because you're still in top secret material, but the people that he saw in Germany went to the extreme. And he said, Norm, did you ever see a man die? And I said, no. And he said, well, I did. They did die. Some of the people that were interrogated died. So you can imagine the amount of work that they were doing on these people. He said that he was going to leave. He told me that. He says, I'm getting out of that CIA, period.
In Korea, it's just a matter of days before the first American prisoners of war will be released. Some of them will face charges of high treason because they accuse their own country of conducting biological warfare.
When my son asked me what I did in Korea, how can I tell him that I came over here and dropped germ bombs on people, destroying and bringing death and destruction? How can I go back and face my family?
Are their accusations accurate, or are they themselves the victims of communist brainwashing? One thing is for certain, back home in freedom, the soldiers making these confessions will be interrogated again, using drugs and torture by their own people. All hands agreed that among the returning POWs from Korea, the hardcore group and those who had been successfully indoctrinated were excellent subjects for Artichoke work. The American soldiers who claimed to have committed biological warfare were apparently manipulated using Artichoke techniques. This is documented in CIA papers, and indeed, all discredited their confessions.
I did sign a confession relating to germ warfare, but the statements contained in this confession were detained under duress from the Chinese communists. And by making these statements, I deliberately attempted to put in as much as was false and ridiculous as I could possibly get away with.
I took an oath when I left the Army I wouldn't talk about that. I'm sorry.
The Korean War Memorial in Washington honors the Americans who died in that fight. Of those who returned, some were interrogated by the CIA using cruel methods and forced to rescind their confessions. But were the confessions the truth? Did the Americans in fact use biological weapons in the Korean War? As a test? And was this the secret Frank Olson knew and might disclose?
This fits